Aloha and welcome to The Bottom Line with Hawaii Central Federal Credit Union. I'm Amber Millsap, Community Relations Officer with Hawaii Central Federal Credit Union, and with me today I have Special Agent in charge of the FBI Honolulu offices, Steven Merrill. Welcome, Steven. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what the FBI does here in Honolulu and around the Pacific?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The FBI Honolulu is a little bit of a misnomer because although we're located here in Honolulu, we cover a vast area all the way through Hawaii to Guam, Saipan, and American Samoa as well. So we have FBI employees that we're one of 56 field offices that investigate any violation of federal crime, again, throughout Hawaii and through the Pacific. So one of the main things that we do here is keep track of statistics about crimes that happen here, federal crimes. And one of the prevailing crimes here, unfortunately, is white-collar crime or financial crime. So one of my jobs as a special agent in charge, and I've been in this position for about 3.5 years, is to educate the public about things that they can do to prevent themselves from being defrauded or scammed.
Well, again, I really appreciate you being on the show with us today. It's really important to our members and the community that we serve here on Oahu. And I know today we're going to be talking about elder fraud. What is elder fraud?
Yeah, it's a good question. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies have aggregated information about those who have been scammed, defrauded by age, and what we consider in the FBI elder fraud to be people who are 60 years old or older that have been defrauded. They've lost money to various scams. So what elder fraud is to me is that we're looking after our Kupuna here in Hawaii, the people 60 years old or older that have been defrauded. And again, my goal isn't to necessarily get the money back for them. Of course, we're going to try very hard and we're going to prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law. It's more to educate people, our elderly, so that they're not defrauded in the future.
Okay. And are we seeing a rise in cases here?
We are, and it's a great question because this isn't a Hawaii-centric problem. This is something that is consistent throughout the United States. But in Hawaii, we have seen a rise. In fact, nationwide, over 100,000 elderly have reported being defrauded. The most recent statistics we have are 2023, and that includes here in our state as well. And of that, those 100,000 people who have reported crimes to the FBI, mainly through our website, ic3.gov. That's the letter I, the letter C, the number 3.gov. A lot of those people have been victimized here in Hawaii. And to the tune of, we report in 2023 over $40 million has been lost due to frauds and scams. And of that $40 million in 2023, 28 million, I believe, was reported being stolen from our elderly that year. So it's a significant problem. And to your question, it has increased both in the number of people reporting as well as the amount of loss that they've unfortunately fallen victim to.
Still, a lot of people may say that this isn't a problem in Hawaii, but what would you say to that?
I would say, unfortunately, it is. We live in a wonderful place and the nicest people I've ever met, and a place I feel comfortable 24 hours a day. That being said, what makes a lot of the scams and frauds that are out there unique are not that they're targeting people necessarily from Hawaii. They're targeting people from all over the world. And this is because it's taking place in a lot of cases on the internet through social media and other means, email. So whether you're in Hawaii or anywhere else, you're being victimized. The criminals don't care where you are, they just want your money. So a lot of times the criminals are sending a wide net of their scams out because they don't need everybody to reply and provide money. They just need one or two people because unfortunately, including people in Hawaii, the victims are paying out a lot of money to the criminals in these cases.
So in general, how does an elder fraud scam work?
Yeah, so elder fraud is split up in a number of different scams, and these, unfortunately, like the number of victims, grow every year. Every time we figure out a way to educate the public and stop one scam, another new one appears, unfortunately. So generally, what happens is you as an elderly person or any victim will get contacted by someone who you don't know. And this could take place on social media, this could take place via email, a cold call, something in the mail even. And this person who you don't know will start a relationship with you. And in the old parlance, we call this a con game, where they're trying to get to know you better, trying to learn more about you. And a lot of times when people get these phone calls as a potential victim and they hang up the phone immediately, that's the end of it. But those who are victimized tend to participate in this development of a relationship with someone they don't know. That's usually how it starts.
What are some of the red flags to look out for if I'm a potential victim of elder fraud?
Yeah, thanks for asking. In addition to what I mentioned, that you're being contacted by someone you don't even know, they are asking you for money. Now, there really shouldn't be anybody asking you for money if it's someone you don't know. That is a huge red flag to me. And that would be enough for me to educate my family, like, please hang up the phone and immediately cut off contact with that person. Other red flags may be, not only are they asking for money, but they're asking for money right away. There's some sense of urgency. And what they're trying to do, the criminals are trying to convince the victims that because of this urgency, it's putting them in a state of mind where they don't necessarily have, they don't feel comfortable saying no. And one of the ways they do that, they fool the victims into believing either the victim or someone in their family may be in peril. And one of the examples, a classic example in elder fraud, is the grandparent scam. And again, like, people in Hawaii and elderly people in general are the nicest, kindest people I know. And because of that, the victims are being preyed upon by the criminals. The grandparent scam is something that a criminal will ask a victim, hey, I know your grandson, he's being held hostage. If you give money right away, I can help get them out of trouble. Well, in reality, there's nobody in trouble. But of course, a caring grandparent, or any person for that matter, would want to help. And so this is how, as a classic example of a grandparent scam, some of the victims are being defrauded. There's a number of other schemes as well I'd be happy to talk about.
Yeah, if you could share.
Yeah, I'd be happy
That'd be
to. Another one, since people are already online, and this is, again, a way they're being victimized. They could be on a social media account, keeping track of their family, whatever. And they have a pop-up screen will come on the screen, and it'll show that your computer has malware on it, or there's some sort of tech problem, making the victims believe that their computer is in trouble. So they'll respond to the query in the tech support scam, as we call it. And really what they're doing is they're giving a criminal, not a tech support person on the other end, their vital information. And you had asked before about the red flags. If you're in a situation where you're asked to give money, like I mentioned, or your PII, as we call it, the personally identifiable information, such as your bank account, your name, your date of birth, your telephone number, anything like that, that is a red flag. Nobody should be asking for that. Another scam is the what we call romance scam, where someone is trying to develop a relationship with a victim, a criminal is, and they're trying to convince you that they will be your boyfriend or girlfriend, or maybe just a friend in general. And if they truly were your friend, they wouldn't be asking you for money or other things like that. So this, again, is a red flag.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, I hope not. But with affairs of the heart, of course, I understand. I sympathize with people that would want to help. But again, it's a huge red flag. And just another example of how the criminals are using people's goodwill, empathy, and caring to defraud them.
Well, I can agree with what you said earlier about not sharing any of your personal information. That's one of the tips that we always give our members, who often call in and say, hey, someone called and asked for this information from me. And we say, we'd never call you. We have that information on file, so why would we call you and ask you for that information?
Great point.
To your point. But just moving on, if I'm a victim of elder fraud, how would I report it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and maybe the most important point. And to your earlier comment, by the way, we have another scam called law enforcement scam, which just like you mentioned for your customers in the credit union, sometimes people will claim to be police or FBI agents and send me money. And just like your credit union, the FBI is never going to call you and ask you for money, nor will the police. But to make these complaints, and it's hugely important to the FBI and police in general to get these complaints, because it doesn't give us a complete picture as to what's going on in the world and what the new scams are and the new schemes until we get that from the public. So you can always call the FBI office. Again, we have offices all over the country, including here in Honolulu. You can call or go to our website, fbi.gov, or like I mentioned before, IC3, the letter I, the letter C, the number 3.gov is where our clearinghouse, if you will, for all of our fraud complaints. And they do an incredible job, and all this information is available on that site for you to look at the numbers of complainants, the amount of loss that we're seeing through all these scams. And when you do make a complaint, they're being read and being reviewed by an FBI person wherever you're making the complaint at. And the value, again, is not that you're making the one complaint, but if there's 10 or 100 or 1,000,000 people making a complaint about the same fraudster, now we know the fraud isn't just based here in Hawaii. This could be a nationwide or worldwide fraud as well. So it's hugely valuable for people to make complaints to ic3.gov.
You mentioned that law enforcement scam earlier. That actually happened to me. Someone called me and said they had a warrant for my arrest. And I was like, really? Where are you calling from? And I asked for the number and all that. And then they quickly were backing off. But does that happen a lot to our elderly adults?
It happens, yeah. Unfortunately, it does.
Oh, okay. Well, what information should I provide to the FBI if I am reporting, a potential fraud case?
Yeah, obviously we want to know your contact information, so if we have follow-up questions, we can get that. But about the example specifically, we want to know how did they contact you, from what account, from what telephone number, what did they ask you, what did they ask you for, were they using any alternate means, like telling you to refer to a website or anything like that. And oftentimes when there is an exchange of money, we obviously want to know like what accounts are being used. Is it regular banking? Is it through a credit union? Or is it something more sophisticated, like a digital account, a social media app, finance app, or even cryptocurrency? So these are the things that will help us. If it is cryptocurrency, what are the wallet, the accounts, that sort of thing, so we can look into that. And the beauty of it is, with more information, not only it'll help us make a case and prosecute someone, hopefully successfully for doing this, but we can give us a better chance of enabling a recovery of the lost funds. And one of the things I'm incredibly proud about the FBI, we're just not a local organization here in Honolulu. We're a worldwide organization, and we have relationships with law enforcement agencies all over the world and banks all over the world. So when we do have an instance of a threat, when someone's been defrauded, we have the ability, our agents can call banks all around the world. And if it's done quick enough, and obviously time is of the essence, we can work with those banks to hopefully halt the transfer of money and get that money back in the hands of the victims who shouldn't be defrauded.
I can imagine it might feel kind of defeating if you don't have all that information, but what would you say to someone who doesn't necessarily have all the information that you just described? Yeah,
I understand not everyone's an FBI agent. They don't have all the information. Give us as much as you can get. The more you provide as a victim, the more we can do.
And so what are some tips that you can give me to avoid this sort of fraud?
Yeah, I mean, it's an old adage that still rings true. If something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. When people offer you a return on investment that is, in the real world impossible, then it is. So oftentimes, like I mentioned, the criminals will try to convince you to do things in an urgent manner, do it fast. Take a moment, step away from the phone, step away from the computer, take a deep breath, call someone who you trust, a family member, even a police representative, a lawyer, whoever, and say, does this sound right to you? The criminals are very good at attaching these frauds to some sort of emotion. And you need to take the emotion out of it and just be clinical and think about the details in the real world. What is someone asking you to do? So that's the biggest thing, the biggest piece of advice. Take a deep breath and think about this. The other thing is, if they refuse to provide their identity, figure out some way to make sure that this is someone who they're saying that they are who they're saying they are. So call them on a video chat or meet them in person, something where you could verify that this person who's claiming to be whatever the name is, John Doe on the background, is in fact John Doe and they are from wherever they're saying they're from. So you don't need to be an FBI agent again, but do enough due diligence to figure out what the people are saying is true.
Just so our viewers at home understand, can you explain a little bit more about how they can report elder fraud, and if they're having trouble with navigating your IC3 website, what should they do?
Right, I'm glad you asked because it may be confusing to some novice computer users or others. That ic3.gov, it's a great website, but if you're having any trouble, ask someone who is more knowledgeable and experienced on the computer keyboard using the internet to help you navigate through that. So ic3.gov, again, a great website, but you may want to ask a family or a friend to help you through that. We also have a phone number you can call, whether it be the local FBI field office or we have an elder fraud, a hotline number you can call as well and speak to a representative versus going online to do that.
Is there anything else that you want to convey, anything else that we should know about elder fraud?
Thank you for asking. I would say, I mentioned briefly the cryptocurrency, and these crimes and the frauds are becoming more and more sophisticated. If someone is asking you specifically for money in cryptocurrency, that is usually a red flag as well. Because the cryptocurrency exchange of money is confusing to many elderly. So if someone's asking you to do that, it's a red flag, but you should also consult with someone you trust to say, why would they be asking for cryptocurrency? That's just something to be very wary of, because criminals tend to want to navigate these exchanges through cryptocurrency versus regular banking, where there's actually laws, and we have, through your organization as an example, there's a know your customer requirements where people actually have to make registration through the banks, and there's a record of who the person is on the other end.
Okay. So bottom line, if we had to reduce it to just one pointer, I think it would be if you're being contacted maybe by someone you don't know, that should be a major red flag. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our viewers at home for joining us of another episode of The Bottom Line. And with that, I'd like to say aloha and ahui ho.